talking my audience, people in the industry. I'm bringing this to you. You can afford this, and your family's actually going to be protected. Those are the two number one things that I would say, man, because if you can't afford it, you're not going to have it anyway.
Yo, what up, though, everybody? This your homeboy Heavy. Yo, check this out. If you like what the Pop Culture 223 podcast is dropping as far as content, I need you to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button so I can run these numbers up and catch that YouTube algorithm. So let's get into the show and see what's popping. What up, though, everybody? This is Heavy, the host of the Pop Culture 223 podcast. Today, we are in the basement. It's popping at night with Heavy. Today, I mean, I got a guest on here, man. I got a superstar, a legend in the game. I'm gonna have him introduce himself in a minute, but man, it's a guy that I've been following for a while, long time. He's like me. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a brother. He's probably a mentor to people he don't even know he's mentored to. Like I said, he's been in the game for a minute. He's the only brother I know that had a firearm with Smith Wesson. It was called. I ain't gonna tell you what it's called because you probably already kind of know when I'm saying that. But I'm gonna let him introduce himself a little bit, and here you go. Go ahead and say hi to everybody, Ken.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ken with Provectus Group. It is a pleasure to be here. Uh, as just like you, been following you for a long time, and like I said, it is a pleasure to be here. And it's been a while since I've been on a podcast or anything like that. I've been kind of laying low, so this is really it means a lot to me. This means a ton. All my interviews always mean a lot, but this one's special, man, because it's been a minute. So I'm excited about this, man. Excited to be on your platform, and let's get into it, man.
Well, like I said, I got some new technology that I'm working through, so just bear with me, man. Like I said, I was
Do your thing. Do your
do my thing
thing.
right. So, I was like, look, man, I gotta look sexy. Ken got all his equipment in the background. He got bushes in the crib. He got hats and stuff. I was like, look, I gotta be sexy when I come on here too. So, I got we in the
Yeah,
red
man.
room. This is called the ready
Yeah,
room right now.
that's
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
man. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. This is what people see. That's the vibe they get. It's extremely important. It's extremely important.
Right. So, man, just tell, like I said, just tell a little bit about you, your background, and everything. And I know, when I was looking, I did some research, and I tried to find this video when you was, your platinum debut album. You was on somebody's video back in the day as a law officer. I don't know, but I remember it, and
Yeah.
I tried to ask some of the homies. Nobody had the video, but I've been looking for it. But I was just trolling through. And I was just like, man, where's this video? I know I've seen this video before, but I couldn't find it. But just tell people,
Oh,
just tell people about yourself, a little bit about your background and all that, where you come from, all that good
yeah.
stuff.
I'm here in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. A little bit about myself. I'm born and raised here. Um, as far as my career is concerned, or I should say, I knew from a very young child. I was probably my son's age, around 7 or so, and actually nobody's ever really heard this story. When I was 7, there was a fire station, probably about 2 miles down the road, and anytime the fires, one of the fire engines was going anywhere, you hear the sirens. I could hear the sirens from our neighborhood. So me and all my buddies, our thing was to hop on our bikes, ride as quick as we could, to the entrance of the neighborhood so we could see the fire truck go by. And so I knew at a, very, and if we got there in time, they would honk the horn for us. And that, that made our weekend. But I knew from a very, very early age that I wanted to be a fireman. I didn't really care about policing at the time, but I knew that I wanted to be a fireman. Like I call in like nothing else, and it stayed with me forever. I ended up getting into what's called the Explorers program when I was 13, and it's a program. A lot of different jurisdictions have them. Some of them have Explorers and it's firefighting related. Some of them have Explorers and it's law enforcement related. And the one that I joined was firefighter related, And one, they teach you a lot about firefighting, and then you get to go to competitions and stuff like that. So we would go to Gatlinburg and whoop up on them, doing quick dress and following the hose and all this, search and rescue type stuff. And what was cool about it is that if you were in the program and you were really good, you studied and basically it's like a fast track to becoming a firefighter, because by the time you turn 18, you can have all your training done. You're literally taking a test and then you're hired. Um, but in between that time, when you turn 16, you can start doing ride-alongs um, with your instructors that are over the Explorers program. They usually work a shift, at the fire station, 24-hour shift. And when you're 16, as long as your grades are good and stuff like that, you can go and do a whole 24-hour shift. So that's what I was doing at 16. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. That was like the best time of my life at the time.
Wait a minute,
It
wait a
would
minute,
be.
wait a minute. You 16 years old fighting fires?
So they're
Well,
not going
put.
to let you go in and fight fire per se,
Mhm.
but once it was under control, you could go in, but prior to any of that, all jurisdictions are different. But prior to doing all of that, like, you have to understand all the safety equipment. You have to know how to put it on. You know, have to put it on properly. You have to understand fire behavior. You have to understand water operations. Like, they're not going to let you go and do a ride along unless you know what you're doing.
R-
Basically, when they let you do that, the only thing holding you back is your age. You got what I'm saying? So you're well vetted. You've got 3 years of training, most likely.
So
Which if
that
you go
took
to
some discipline and some like
yeah, man,
because
yeah,
especially at 16 to go through that and to
yep,
want to do that and actually like
yep,
put your heart into it. Because 16, listen,
yep,
I'm 16. I'm riding my bike in the hood. We doing all
yep.
kind of craziness. I'm not thinking about fighting no fires. Well,
That's right, man.
we
But
on the other end
so
of the
for
fire. We not on that end.
right, but see, but it's funny you brought that up, because you don't really put too much thought in this kind of stuff. At the time, that was all I could think about. Like, I knew when I rode on Charlie shift, and I knew when Charlie shift was coming on. You know what I mean? Like, and you could only go like on the weekends, or unless you're out of school or summertime or something like that. But it definitely kept me out of trouble. The other thing that kind of, well, it kept me out of trouble for the most part was, I was racing cars. I was big time into racing, man. A lot of people don't know this, but like, if you want to know what I care about more than anything, if I had to compare guns and cars, it would be cars. I started
Honda,
racing.
Honda.
Yeah, that's right, baby, all day.
Honda. No, but hey, I'm
And
from Detroit, bro. Motor City. We Ford tough Mustangs over here, homie. We
oh
not
yeah, oh yeah, oh,
we.
mad respect, for real.
I heard he said he's a Honda guy. I said, what? Wait a minute, what? That's the first time I
Yeah.
heard that.
But I mean, so I started doing junior dragsters when I was 8. Did Bandoleros, did Legend cars. No, excuse me, not Bandoleros. I thought about it. Bandoleros wasn't really around then. It was like new. But I did Legend cars, and that kind of stuff. But in that time, I got into full scale cars, I guess you call it. And Hondas, man, like, it was something about it. And so, put it this way, I get home from school, and one year for Christmas, I was into the cars and stuff so deep, man. My parents went and got me a Nichols portable building, a little shed you can go buy, the little small one. And we went to Sears, got the Craftsman little tool set and little toolbox. And we went to the junkyard and got me I think it was out of like a 1991 or 1992 Acura Integra motor. And I would come home from school, and I had these Honda Builder handbooks. It was 2 volumes, and it had everything you wanted to know. And then I had the regular Haynes manual, and stuff like that. And I probably disassembled and reassembled that motor 150 times, literally. And I did it for years. And in fact, the last time I put it together, we rebuilt it, completely, all new seals, everything. And last I heard, the guy who got the motor had put 250,000 miles on it, so 250,000 miles on it, and it was still going, so like, eat, when people be like, eat, sleep, drink, like, I was eat, sleep, drinking, shitting, you name it, cars. I would come home from school, do my homework, go right out to the shed, and I was turning wrenches. And then when I come in, wash up, eat, and then in bed, I was studying my Honda Builder's Handbook, and I would do whatever I studied the next day. So it was self taught, man. But I'm bringing all this stuff up because when it came to firefighting and learning that kind of stuff at an early age, learning cars and mainly with cars, it was vastly self-taught. That prepared me for what I do now with teaching and understanding how we learn and understanding how to teach, and I don't know, having that a high level of care with that, a high level of give a damn. And it's but anyway, to continue, I got into ended up getting into firefighting and law enforcement at the exact same time, man. It was actually an episode of Cops I was watching one day, and I was like, "Dang, everything that they're doing, I could do that." Like, I feel like I know how I could talk to people. You know what I mean? I could, obviously I like guns, and all that stuff. I wasn't like somebody who grew up with guns. I didn't wasn't like my son. My son fired his first gun at 4 years old. And was grouping at 25 yards at 4 years old. My first experience with a gun, I think I was like 20, 18, 19, or 20. And it was my roommate who was a deputy sheriff. We went over to his parents' house, and I shot my first gun. And it was scary as hell. So
Well,
it, go
it's
ahead.
funny. It's crazy that because two things to unpack right there, right? One, can you nowadays do you think these kids can change tires or change an alternator or do
Absolutely
anything on
not.
cars? No. So, you know, me, I'm not the most mechanic, as far as engines go. I call the homies and they tell me how to do stuff. If it get too
Sure.
complicated, I'd be like, hey, bro, you gotta come over here and work out, work with me. But my
That's right.
son in his car, I was like, hey, man, this how you change the tire. This how you do this. Just in case you out and about doing stuff or something happens to your car, you need to know. But nowadays, these kids probably don't know how to do none of that stuff you talking about.
They don't. They
Um,
don't. They don't. I remember in law enforcement, even I was a highway emergency response officer before I got into firefighting and law enforcement. It's kind of like a mix between EMS, fire, towing, and it's through the state of Georgia, the DOT, and you patrol the interstate. And, when we weren't responding to emergency calls, and stuff like that, real bad wrecks and stuff, we would help people on the side of the road. Nine times, well, I say 7 times out of 10, it was a dude. And this
right,
was back in like '06, bro, 2006, 2007. Technology was a thing, but not like it is now.
right.
And when I tell you, I would stand there and have to teach these grown men. I ain't talking about dudes in their 40s. I'm talking about teenagers, man. Like, it was sad. And then I continued to see it all the way up into my law enforcement career. Pulling over to help somebody on the side of the road, and you got three dudes standing there scratching their head. The trunk's open. They look, the trunk is open. The spare tire is next to the car, but they don't know. I mean, but they ain't even googling it. They ain't even YouTubing it.
They don't know
There's
how to
nothing
they
wrong.
don't know how to lower the tire down either, do they?
Yeah, they don't know how to. Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, bro. But my thing is that you don't have to have grown up and had someone to teach you. Obviously, it would have been much better to have somebody to show you how to do those things. And that's now the opportunity that I have with my son. I didn't have that growing up. I was raised by a single mom. I had to figure that stuff out. So I at least want to see dudes tapping into the resources that are available and trying to learn that kind of stuff, even if it's on the fly, man. Just the effort is everything. You know.
And then the second thing, because where I come from, our first, and you were talking about your first encounter with a firearm. Where I'm from, our first encounter with a firearm was always a negative. It was always been negative because from the neighborhood. So somebody, little Bo Peep down the street, might have had something, and it was always the
Yep.
negative part of it.
Yep.
The only thing kind of, it kind of saved us or saved me because my grandfather and father taught me firearm safety at a young age because we had property. We still have property like in New Orleans, so we used to go down there and on the property take shotguns and 22 because they used to hunt. And
Yep.
my first ever my first time shooting a firearm was a 12 gauge, and that was the last
Yeah.
time I ever shot it when I was 6. And I have not really shot a 12 gauge since then, and I'm way
Yeah,
past that age. And I was just like,
yeah,
no,
bro.
but
That's a crazy intro.
right, you know what I'm saying. But and that's another
I
reason
don't
why I
like shooting
kind of
12
right, and that was
gauge.
another reason why we kind of did that Erica's Big Day book, me and EDC guy, because I was always a guy playing hide go seek in somebody's house, and I mean playing hide go seek in granddad's house, and we was always finding shotguns, we was always finding guns.
Right.
And then I knew
Yeah.
what they could do, and I knew, you know what I'm saying, the gun safety part about it. And I was just like, okay, but a lot of people, kids don't know this because in my neighborhood, it was always a negative. How we got introduced to guns was always negative, right? It was never a
Right.
positive things. So, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That was like, just because like it was just two things you said there. One was because you shot a gun your first time with your partner, and y'all shot it, on his property. So that was a positive way to
Right.
to get introduced
Yeah.
to it. But and on the other end of that,
Yeah.
mine was kind of a negative
Now,
thing.
so let me ask you, because you know, when you don't grow up in that type of neighborhood, the all you can do is just try to imagine, or assume. But I had never really heard anybody, just tell me from that point of view, like it was a negative connotation, when it was something firearm related. How do you think we can turn that into a positive, for people who grew up like that?
Well, pe- and I guess we are gonna get into it with the insurance. You know what I'm saying, with the right to bear arms and all that. But in the community, when we growing up in the community, people had stuff to protect themselves, so they felt like they had to protect themselves from the big bad wolf that was around the corner. And
Sure.
being young, if the older homie got it, he gonna always throw it to the young one because you know what I'm saying, he may get in less trouble than everybody else. So the young ones
Right.
always had it, just like today. Like the
Yeah.
old heads
Yeah.
can't just pass it to the young ones and tell them to hold it, go do something. They gotta, you know what I'm saying, they gotta be some responsibilities from the OGs to tell the young ones that,
Uh,
look, y'all can't do this, or it's just a different way.
right. That's right.
But
That's right.
it's just keep talking, keep educating people about the laws and how you can get pent up and having stuff on your record, and you know what I'm saying. I just think it's got to be a continuous education and talking to them and them seeing people like us that look like us and come from where we
Yeah.
come from and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
y'all doing this? Oh, okay, I can be
That's right.
legal and do this. I can be legal and
That's
tote
right.
this,
That's
and I
right.
can, you know what I'm
And
saying?
not
I
be
don't
looking
have
at
to
your
do it illegally because that's the way
shoulder.
they see it. Like it's another way to do it. It's another example, a positive example of doing it. But
I
like
like that.
even back in the day, your father, it was a hunting thing, right? You probably went hunting but like kids don't go hunting with their grandparents no more. And the other side of the railroad tracks, them kids go hunting with their fathers. And when you go hunting, you have to go to like a gun safety class, right? A hunting class to
Yeah.
get I don't know what it's called, to get like a certification saying that you can go hunting. But when the kids go
Sure.
hunting with their dad or their uncle, those kids
Mhm.
see the impact of a firearm, what it can do to flesh and a body. And sometimes
Yeah.
young kids remember that, so on our
Yeah.
side, we don't our parents never took us hunting, or we didn't, that granddad taking us out hunting and fishing, some of that's just past, you know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
but the kids on the other side of the tracks, they get that because they go hunting with their fathers. And like I got a homeboy that take his kids hunting, and I say, that's cool, man. I want you to take me hunting too. But they all know about firearms. They all know about firearm safety because they want to
Right.
go hunting with their dad. In order to go hunting, they got to go through those classes. So they got to see that discipline. They got to go to those classes. And then they see what the impact of a firearm does on flesh, like I said, to a deer. And that's like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to mess with this because this thing is totally, you know what I'm saying, it can do
You
damage.
know, you bringing up something that's very important. We got to, all right. So we got to put something together regarding that. So with our Provectus Outdoors channel, we're planning, well, we talked about doing a hunting series where we start with the basics, the very basics. What is hunting? What are the different types of things you can hunt? What are the most common things? Whitetail deer, stuff like that. And then go into the basics, like you got to get a license. This is usually what it's like. Hey, this is the basics of a rifle. You don't need nothing crazy, especially like the gun dudes, you know what I mean? Like us, who been in the industry, usually if we got a rifle, it's an AR-15. So and they're usually decked out. So when we're thinking about something to go hunting with, you think you got to go buy some $2,000 something. Like, nah, we're gonna show you what this $250 something's gonna do. 308. We'll show you what's the good. What are the basic things that you want to look for in your rifle? What are the basic things you want to look for in your optic? How to mount the optic? How to zero it? And then I want to do something like that. I've felt that calling on my heart for a minute, so I guess I need to do it because I could see that then turning into obviously people being able to learn through, video, but then it would be wonderful to put together like a hunting outing, where you invite a bunch of folks, man, and I get guys who can actually hunt. I'm a fake hunter, right? I can get it, and get it done, but I wouldn't mind putting together like a weekend of something, man, and we go and actually hunt. People who get the kill, we show them how to hang it up, how to skin it, you know what I mean, how to quarter it, how to get your meat off of it, all that kind of stuff. Yo, that would be lit. Then you go home with your meat, because I'm gonna tell you something, man. Especially with the crazy stuff they selling to us in the grocery store now. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, I would love to do something like that, man, because I never had that opportunity growing up. And there's a lot of black kids, black dudes who never had that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And they need that. You know?
Well, and then, cause growing up, and I didn't even know this. Like they had ROTC in schools, but some of our
Yeah.
high schools actually had gun ranges at the bottom at the bottom, like in the basement,
Yep.
and they used to shoot
Yep.
22s, and they used to
Yep.
shoot 22 because a guy told me like, yeah, my dad, they was at a Cody High School. He said that the high school, it was an inner city high school. He said, "Man, my dad had a gun range in the basement of the school." I said, "What school is this? I need to transfer. What? I need to go check this out."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was like, "They
Right.
ain't got it no more. It
Yeah.
was a sand pit." But they used to, they used to teach us, everybody, both sides of the quarter, how to be gun
Yep.
safety. So
That's the
as and I'm assuming this, as the environment or the neighborhood changed, things start going away, right? For one reason
yeah.
or another, right? So they stopped teaching us gun safety, and then they stopped teaching that or having that ROTC in the basement, and they got away from that. But I didn't even know that. Like, I guess it was like maybe 5 or 6 schools, inner city Detroit public schools, that had ranges in the basement. They used to teach them how to shoot 22s for the ROTC thing, and I thought that was amazing. To me, like, you teaching them gun safety, like why not? Like, why not teach them
Yeah.
the proper way to do, the proper way to handle, so we don't have all these issues that we having in our community, and then you want to say because it's firearms. No, it's the lack of education.
Yeah.
It ain't the firearms, it's the lack of the
Agreed.
education.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So I would, hey man, like I said, you had a bunch of different channels because, like I said, I seen you on a tractor. I was like, what is this dude? What hat on? I said, what is this dude
Practice
into?
outdoors, man. Yeah,
I was like,
dude.
Perfectus Outdoors. I'm like,
Yeah,
what is
man.
this?
That I love that stuff, man. I love it. I love it. And honestly, it's just I create these channels, man, just to create a platform to just share the information. I'm blessed to know what I know, and I want to share it. I want to share the good word so more people stay alive. That's what Provectus Group is for. I want to share the good word, to men, so men can be more manly, you know what I mean, and know man stuff, and the reasoning why that's important is so that they can protect and provide, and teach, lead, and cultivate, their families, and lead their family the proper way. So, that's really what it's for. It's entertainment, but at the same time, if I can, teach you how to run a tractor, teach you how to, hook up a trailer to your truck and tow properly. If I could teach you what to look for in a truck, how to change a tire, shoot a gun, hunt, all that stuff. Why not, man? Like, you never know. There'll be a channel coming up will be teaching you something else, man. Like, it,
Hey,
I just, it's like, my purpose is to teach. I've been built to teach, and teach at a high level and teach well, and so I want to, I know what it's like to not fulfill your purpose, so I love fulfilling my purpose. You know what I mean? So
well,
that's what I'm here to do.
and I don't know if you knew this, but well, you probably didn't. I remember you was sharing some on IG, and I asked you this I think you were sharing about what you was going through when your dad passed.
Yeah.
And I felt that because I was going. My dad had passed, but I think he passed along. He passed before your dad passed. But I was just like, man, Ken is sharing something that's so deep, and especially for us black men, we don't come off the shoulder and just and share our feelings like that in the community to show our vulnerability in that world. But I felt that like I felt that hard, bro, like real hard. Like every day
And
is
you had to.
every day
That was a
sometimes is a
long
struggle.
time ago. It is. It's that happened in 2018. So when I shared that was probably in 2018 sometime. So that was a long time ago. So it had to have been significant for you to still remember this. What I will say is that I'm going to do more of that. Um, we need more examples of that. There's a lot of healing for everybody involved, the people that are hearing it, but also the people that are sharing it. One thing that I've learned, I went into a pretty deep depression, after that. And I had never experienced depression in my life. So the reasoning why I want to share it is I know for a fact that most guys are walking around dealing with the same things that I was dealing with when I was dealing with depression. And you don't even have to have had a parent die. Just living in this world in 2025, um, everything around us is negative, man. It's trauma and drama. So you got a lot of people dealing with mental issues. We're afraid to talk about it. We're afraid to talk about it to our spouses, let alone online. You don't even have to have any kind of presence, because there's always that, well, once I put this out, what are people going to say? I don't care what anybody says. Everybody cares about what other people think to an extent. I think it's that there's a healthy amount of that. Then obviously if you have too much, it's not good. But that's something that you're going to see a lot more from me, because I want people to know that if I can get through it, you can get through it too. And if I can share some tips that work for me, that will help you, um, absolutely I'm going to do it, because it all ties back into life safety and security. It all ties back into self defense and carrying a firearm. And me, the entire reason why people know who I am, and that's teaching firearms. If your mental health is not right, you're not going to be able to help anybody. You're more of a detriment to yourself than anyone. So it's something that I have to share, because we got a lot of lives that we got to save. It's too many of us walking around dealing with an extreme amount of depression, and you feel like you're alone. That's the biggest thing. You feel like you don't have anybody to share this with. No one's going to understand, or they don't care, or whatever. Fill in the blank. you know
So, like, as your time as a police officer, especially and you talking about in Atlanta, right? You talking about in Atlanta.
yeah. It was in Metro Atlanta. It wasn't in the city of Atlanta,
I mean, but
but
yeah, right. So, like, how
but
did you
it's
deal with just going out, coming back? I mean, going out in the world, dealing with that, and then coming back home. Like, how did you like depress that, let that go? Because you had to
you,
see some
you,
stuff, been through some stuff, been in some
oh boy,
arguments, all kind of
it
stuff.
didn't it didn't bother me until I got out. Um, so I noticed around the 2 year mark, I started to change. When you're going to calls, multiple calls per shift, 20, 30, 40 calls, just depends on how busy you are in the jurisdiction you work in. You're seeing the worst of what society has to offer. You're not going to these feel good calls. They're all pretty much going to be negative, and 80% of the folks that you're talking to are probably lying to you, or they're coming up with a way to kill you. So it's you know, so one thing, you go to work and you see all this stuff, and then you're expected to go home and act like ain't nothing happened. That there's nothing healthy about that. um, when you're dealing with that amount of negativity, and you are, when people call 911, you're expected to provide a solution. They're not calling you, for you to show up and then the situation doesn't get better. So you have to have a certain level of give a damn to be a really good police officer. And I consider myself as one of the best ones because I worked at it every single day, every single call. I made the decision to be my best, to be compassionate, loving, understanding, reasonable, all that, man. Like, I wish if I, now that I'm not in law enforcement, anytime I'm pulled over, I hope it's someone who was like me because I know I'm definitely going to be treated fairly and treated with respect, So it's very hard to go to work and do that kind of job and then go home and act like, nothing didn't happen. And I was very good at it, but I wish that I would have came home and spoke to my wife about these things and talked to her and shared with her what was going on because of some of the things that I was doing in law enforcement and some of the task forces that I was on and attached to this and attached to that. I did a lot. And now when I look back on it, I tell my wife all the time, I was like, man, between law enforcement and firefighting and highway emergency response officer and stuff, I seen too much. I saw way too much, when you're working in it and you're in the middle of your career, you can see a little bit of what you can see a little bit of the adverse stuff, but when you get out, oh yeah. When my dad passed, that's like when the floodgates open. So all of everything, all the bad memories from law enforcement, all the craziness, all the personal craziness, work craziness, once I had a son, that really you know, put everything into perspective. You realize just how delicate, life is, and you don't really know you can love something as much as you do until you have a kid.
Listen,
So
I didn't really become a punk till I had my daughter, and then my
hey,
son,
man, nothing wrong with that. Nothing
I
wrong with
would,
that. Sound like a
um,
dad to me.
right, and then my dad passed, and it was like, ooh, it was a lot. Cause growing
Yeah,
up, growing up in the neighborhood, we lost some friends, and I lost some
sure.
like some friends that I was with like today, and they were gone like tomorrow, and
Yep.
I was with them
Yep.
like 8 hours ago. Like we were just together.
Yep.
Like, what's up? And then they're like, hey man, this happened. I'm like, are you serious? So I could have been in that situation, but but like I said, you lose some, but you kind of compress it when you growing up in the neighborhood. It's kind of like it happens, so you just kind of brush it off. But I lost my
Well,
old
and the,
dude.
and the body's also designed to do that. It's designed to take it and kind of put it in a box and store it away, especially if it's something that's very traumatic and maybe you're not equipped or to really deal with it adequately at the time. Your brain will do that. It'll box it up and store
Oh,
it somewhere so it doesn't affect you, you know what I mean,
right,
adversely right now. But I
right.
think what's missing, and I definitely know that this is missing with first responders, is they got to work on their mental health while they're actively full time, active duty, and this is everybody, not just police and fire, but EMS and paramedics go to way more calls usually than firefighters. They stay very, very. You always see an ambulance going up and down the road. You don't see fire trucks that often. But your people in the ER that see all this craziness, people that work with Department of Family and Children Services, stuff like people who have to see the worst of society, it is imperative that you find somebody to talk to and find folks who are like you that work the same job. Those are the best folks to sit down and talk to because they understand. And I think the number one thing is you won't feel like you're alone. There's nothing worse than dealing with something that you do not know how to get out of. You know, you're doing therapy, I did therapy for years, man. I went to therapy twice a week for years. And that crap moved the needle maybe about 10%, man. Find you somebody that knows what you're going through. I would highly recommend that you believe in a higher power God, because that's who literally took all that from me. Like you've got to do your due diligence now. Do not wait until you get out. It only takes a couple years before those types of jobs change you forever. You become cynical, you become immune to the craziness because you're responding to chaos all the time. And it changes you as a person, man. I used to be goofy as hell. class clown, goofy, and it hardens you, man. I'm just now getting back to the old Ken that just wants to enjoy life, man. Like it really, it does something to you, and you'll take it with you for the rest of your life. Like it's
Well,
extremely
you do a good job of it because you the party on you one of the guys that be on IG or wherever you been when you posting it look like you having hella fun, and I was just like, man, Ken don't care. He just a big goofy, big goofy dude having
important.
fun kicking it, and it's hard sometimes to be like that. But I was like, man, Ken out there, everything you do, it look like you having fun. Like when you showing whatever you showing.
It's when I'm doing that, what you guys are seeing, I'm fulfilling my purpose. So yes, I am happy when I'm doing that. Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's why it's so important to make sure that you're fulfilling what you were built for.
And
Why are you here?
I heard KD say, "Would you rather make $100,000 doing something you know how to do, or make like $60,000 in your purpose?" And
I'd rather be in my purpose for free. That's how much I
well,
want to be in my
well,
purpose.
eggs too high
I'll
to be
figure out.
doing something for free. Eggs too high to be doing it for free, bro.
Hey man, like I'm serious. Like I've been blessed to know both sides of the fence, and I'm being super honest, man, because I know a lot of people. Anytime you're talking to anyone that has any kind of aspirations, usually the top one or two is I want to make good money, right?
Right.
Usually, hey man, what's your definition of success? Usually, it's going to be something about money, right? I've experienced both sides of the fence several times. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you something, man. Making good money is cool. It is. It does make a lot of things easier. Same with making a lot of money. Okay. But if you're not fulfilling your purpose, it just leads you to a dead end. You could have all the money in the world. If you're not fulfilling your purpose, you will kill yourself. Literally. And I mean that literally. Most of the time, suicide is a privilege of the wealthy and the rich. Because once you've made all that money, and you fall into, and I'm going to tell you specifically how it happens. You fall into this pattern of short-term gratification because when you got money, you can pretty much go out and buy anything you want at any time. And I'm talking about something that might range from $300 to 2,500, 3 grand. It doesn't matter. Yeah, yeah, I'll get that. Let me grab that. Blah blah. And it could be something that you've been thinking about getting for a while. And after you buy it, once you do that so much, you'll go out and buy that thing that you were thinking about all the time. And then as soon as you buy it, within a day or so, you're not thinking about it no more. So you got to find something else that's going to scratch that, something else to buy, something else to buy, something else to buy. You know, so I'll tell you, I've lived that life and I've lived it consistently for years, and it led me nowhere but a dead end. However, anytime I was fulfilling my purpose, oh my, you talk about a high, feeling wonderful on top of the world, man. It's long term gratification. Anytime I went out of my way to help somebody, I'm not talking about just being a blessing out of convenience because I got the money and sure you're here now, but I'm talking about going out of your way to help somebody. That long term gratification, that feeling you feel, anytime you recollect or you think back on that time, you feel that feeling again. So what I try to tell folks, and this is why I'm so happy about having opportunities to like this to be able to talk to people, and they actually get to know me and understand me and how I got here. Maybe don't focus so much on the money. Focus on your purpose. The money will come because when you're fulfilling your purpose, you're doing something that you absolutely love. It gives you so much satisfaction and you're so good at it, people are willing to pay you for it. You know what I mean? So that's like, if you don't hear anything else that I say outside of go and follow God, please listen to that part. Money is just a thing. Go and fulfill your purpose so that you can ensure that you're happy and you're fulfilled and you feel satisfied. You know what I mean? That's so important, man. Like it is everything. It's
Yeah,
everything.
cause I do a little part-time work at the gun store. Shout out to
Hmm.
Uncoil, and I like going in and helping people. Like for a person to purchase a pew pew because I told him because of my recommendations and everything, it kind of made me feel good. I was like, man, this dude listened to what I'm saying and actually took what I had to say and took it into hand. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go with this because you said that. Like, cause you know how gun stores are. Not all of them. The most of the ones I go to, they cool people. They just try to sell, give you anything just because it's on the shelf, whatever. But you know
Right.
what I'm saying? The gun stores that I go to uncoiled, we kind of like that's what we kind of push. Like, if you come in there, you want to ask questions, they answer them. If I'm in there helping, and I do it for, I do it for the love because I like being in there, I like helping people, like
That's
talking to
see.
people.
So you know what I'm talking
It's
about, man.
especially because the store I go to is close to the city, so we get a lot of city folks to come in there, and I'll be trying to educate the uneducated. You know what I'm saying? I'll be trying to get our people game and like, hey man, do it this way, that way. It's a lot of kids. The people come in there, and they got the holster on inside out or backwards, or the pants sag, this and
Right.
this.
Yeah,
And I
man.
come to him and
Yep.
talk to him and kick it with him, like, hey man, this is a better way to do this, da 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 da. But I feel good, and I'm not even getting paid, but I feel good about it. And I guess that probably goes
You know
back
what?
to
I got to start doing the same. I need to
right.
start donating my time at some
Just
range
start
doing this. So
donating
you
the
gonna
time. Right. So
you gonna see you finna start a trend, bruh. That's lit, man. I like that.
um
Like that, man.
that probably go back for me. Like I coached inner city football for like shout out to the inner city
Yeah.
coaches back in the day. We out there for free, getting yelled at, getting talked to, all this kind of, but we out there
Yep.
doing it for the kids and for the love of the sport of inner city football. So that's kind of, you know
Yep.
what I'm saying? It all kind of go hand in hand.
It's the same. It is the same. And so here's what I want guys to understand, that work in the gun ranges and people are coming to them for information. The folks that are asking you those questions, they're entrusting their life in your hands. They are fully going, hey, I'm here to, figure out how to defend myself and all that kind of stuff. Your recommendation is everything. So, please take it seriously. Please understand that they're entrusting their life and their families' lives, their children, their wives, all this stuff, man. Like it is there's no greater gift that you can give anybody than helping or teaching them how to defend themselves, man, and protect life. There's no greater gift. So please, please, please take it serious. Please do.
So tell us a little bit because I'm seeing like that, and then you talk about you was a firefighter, you was a police officer, you was on. I heard you say something about you, and I ain't catch this, and maybe you could talk a little bit about it when you were talking about you start something about you created a program for SRT or something like that. Back you and your homeboy back when y'all were roommates. What
Yeah.
was that about? I missed that. I heard it, but I was like, wait a minute,
So,
did he just say what I thought he said?
so we were still in the police academy, man, and this is it was really cool. We were like, all right, we were still in the police academy, and we wanted to, obviously live that tactical life. You know what I mean? Like I was one of those guys. I would SWAT everything, right? So while we were still in the academy, we created or started to put on paper the provisions for a crime suppression type unit, and about three, no, I would say about 4 years later, it actually came to provision and or to fruition, and it was called Vice. It was Vehicle Interdiction and Criminal Enforcement. It was a criminal task force. It was multiple agencies, and it was wonderful, man. It was a really cool experience. We put it together. We did all the crime stats. We had to pull all the manpower numbers, to rearrange manpower and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we did, man. Like it was the coolest thing. You be plain clothes undercover one day, you in a mark unit the next day, you in a helicopter another day, you flying in a plane for this, going here. Some things you can't really say much about, but man, doing raids where you're hitting multiple apartments at one time, going to other states, doing warrants. Like it was an absolute it was an incredible experience, and the reason why is because we were able to multiply um, how effective we were at helping people. You know what I mean? Like we weren't restricted by being on patrol or having to work a shift and got to go home at this hour. There are many, many days working 30 plus hours, 40 plus hours in a row. You off in other jurisdictions, and I'm having to go and get multiple hotel rooms for everybody, because we so far away from home. And we came to do a warrant, but we found a bomb and a bunch of drugs too. So now it's like it was awesome. Multi-state um, cases, multi-jurisdiction, cases. Worked a lot of dope on the interstate. Like it
I hear
was
a
awesome,
movie
bro.
script coming from this, bro. I hear
Yo, you
Provectus
ain't the
movie
first person
script.
that said that, man. Dude, like if I, man, that would probably be a cool movie, man. Seriously, because we did all the cool stuff, man, but we were doing it right.
Right.
Like we understood, the three types of police citizen encounters. We understood the two types of lawful authority that a law enforcement officer has, the four ways you can enter a home without a warrant. Like we knew all those things. So when we were dealing with you, we were dealing with you with respect. We didn't have to, skirt around the bushes and do all this BS. You know what I mean? Like we were straight up. And I think, to be honest with you, because we were going after the worst folks, man, and we didn't get into a lot of crazy altercations and stuff, even though we were dealing with those types of dudes who were like, you guys come to my house, I'm shooting, you know. But because we dealt with you like a man, respected you as such, that was usually what was returned. It really truly was, man. So like I always told my guys, especially when it came to going in the hood. And I never grew up in the hood, but I knew what I heard, I knew what I saw, on TV and stuff like that. And then once I got in law enforcement, I knew what I saw in person. But I was that cop that would pull up in the police car and get out. And I'm gonna come and talk with you. And I'm standing right next to the dope boys on the corner. They done threw their dope and all that stuff. And I say, hey man, you go pick it up, man. I'm not here for that. I'm here to understand why y'all do what you do. You know what I mean? Why do you do it this way? Here's a better way. I was there to establish a relationship with them because I realized that what they were doing was their definition of success. That's what they were taught. That's what they saw growing up. So it all started to make sense. We're not very different. This is just your way of doing it. You know what I mean? So by doing that, I had a really good relationship with folks in the hood in multiple cities, not in just one city, it's multiple cities, multiple jurisdictions that I can go and talk to folks. Not only just in the hood, bro, where I police, there were certain areas where you couldn't be black and go down in certain areas. Like it would literally say no niggers after dark. And it would be on a 4x8 piece of plywood on the side of the road. And that's right, you best respect it. You know what I'm saying? I was able to go in those areas too. It's all about respect, man. Like, dude, I've met some dudes, man. I've been in places on the Alabama Georgia line called the Frog Pond. I probably don't need to be saying it out loud, but one of the places called Frog Pond. What's the other one? Is another Snows Lake, I think is what it's called. Ain't no black folks going out there, but I was out there. Ain't nobody give me no problems, man. It was always love. But it was that way everywhere I went because I treated people a certain kind of way. Period, man. I'm
Hey,
gonna
so
treat you good.
right, gang recognize gang. Sometimes you respect me, I respect you. We keep it moving.
Yeah, man.
I
That's right.
get that.
Yeah.
So how where did um the security company come from? Because I remember I seen you in Florida, man, in a truck pushing gas or protecting gas, like you was Mad
Yeah.
Max in the Terror Dome, running
Yeah.
gas. Like what was that about?
So what's so funny is when they had the hurricane in Houston, they had a lot of that money that's coming in is through FEMA, and they needed protection for certain assets, right? And a lot of that, when you're in a hurricane-stricken area or really any area that's had a natural disaster, you really got about 2 weeks before real chaos starts to ensue. The first week, you got a lot of brotherly love happening. People are trying to help each other. They were looking out for each other. Most people have a little bit of food, maybe a little bit of money. That second week, you start to see a decent turn. People are running out of food. They're running out of money. the brotherly love, patience is wearing thin, because you've been dealing with your insurance company for the past week and now they telling you they ain't finna give you no money or they living the runaround or giving you the runaround. Your stress level, is at all time high, anxiety all time, that second week is when you really start to see an explosion of violence. And it really doesn't matter what community you're talking about. It could be Miami, Houston, the Carolinas, um, uh, wherever, that second week is where it starts to take a turn. So, what was happening in Houston is they were stealing diesel trucks and fuel trucks. And when there's natural disasters, things like fuel are gold. So they were stealing those transfer trucks and then taking them to the hood and selling gas. And you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, of truck, gas, trailer, all that kind of stuff. So they brought us in to protect that and to protect other assets. And that is what we did. And I'm gonna tell you, man. I remember when we got the call and was asked if this was something we could do, and we're like, yeah, we can, but y'all need that? Like, didn't a hurricane just hit? And they're like, yeah, like go and see Houston. You'll see what we're talking about. And so that's what we did. We would be moving, assets like that around, and it would be, 4 to 8 of us, multiple vehicles, and we convoy everywhere, man. Like it was, and there were several times where we were, people attempted to rob us, man. They block us off in the road. They get out with their guns. We get out with ours, and then they would get back in theirs, because
Get popping.
when
That's what
you're
I'm
looking
talking
for
about.
somebody, you said what now?
I say, let's get it popping. That's what I'm talking about. We ain't
Yeah,
no
I mean,
pushovers.
one
We
thing,
ain't no
yeah,
pushovers.
yeah, yeah, man. Like, one thing that I'll say is that you said it earlier, real recognize real. When we get out of the car, we're not there to play games. If you want to go there, we're going to go there. And we're way better at it. And we're going to show you what real violence looks like. You
Man,
know what
that's
I'm saying?
crazy.
Like, and, but,
That's deep. That's
that's what,
crazy.
that's what be the switch means. That's been one of our slogans since the beginning. And what be the switch is, when you're running around normal day to day life, man, loving, caring, everything's great, you know, everything's wonderful. But when somebody comes around you and they're trying to cause great bodily harm or death to you or somebody around you, you have to be a switch. You have to flip a switch and be a completely different person. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the body is designed for self preservation, it's not designed to take life. It's designed to preserve life. That's what freeze, flight, or fight is. Everything about that, every part of the subconscious that taps into that, all the thousands of chemicals that are released when fight or flight kicks in, is designed for self preservation, for protection of life, not to take it. So you have to flip a switch. You also have to flip a switch because the majority of the time, as a good guy, you're going to be kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit, and you're going to be responding usually to something. Now, with really good situational awareness and understanding criminal conduct and behavior, just body language in general, you can start to get ahead of that curveball. But absent that, you're going to be kind of playing catch up a little bit. So, you have to be prepared to not just pull your firearm out. You have to understand when you can and cannot do it. You have to be well versed in that. That stuff has to be rehearsed and understood way ahead of time, because it's split seconds. It's literally milliseconds that you have to respond appropriately, and then the entire violent encounter is over in seconds in general. So yeah, like you have to you have to understand that when it comes to life and death, and you're deciding to step in to stop the loss of life, there's nothing pretty about it. There's nothing nice about it. It is an extreme violence of action. And if you're not responding like that, you're going to lose. Like mentally, you have to have it in your head that even if I get shot, I'm still you're still finna get it. I don't care. Like it's a mental switch. You have to flip that switch because that's not who we are. That's not how we were built. So um, yeah, I mean you literally have to do it like that, if you want to survive.
So, do you do you have videos that talk about understanding bad guys, their emotions or how they move, or a situation awareness, keys
Yeah.
to come up and think like, okay, that's a key. Or
Yeah.
okay, I seen that. Ken was talking about that the other day on this little 30-minute, 15-minute
Yeah.
video he had on his channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do. I actually have those videos lined up, and we're about to start dropping those. I have probably about 65 videos that we're about to drop, not all at one time. But I just been kind of stacking them up, man, because I've been laying low for a couple years.
I
But
know, man. First of
yeah,
all, let me know. Is this the first time you out? Is this first time this your
yeah,
first
I
podcast?
told you,
All.
yeah, bro.
Oh man, I
I
wish I had
told
some
you, bro.
sign. I wish I had some buttons to hit, and
Bruh,
all that.
bruh, man, I wasn't lying, man. Dude, I had to, when you're going through what I went through, man, I had to get myself together. I had to work on my family. I had to work on everything, and that stuff comes first. I can't, I can't provide or do what I was built to do if I'm not right, period. And I'm not going to it didn't fit it wasn't even really a discussion or really a thought. It's just I had to pull back, man. I had to pull back because I fully understand, you know the trust that people have put in me, and I'm not going to do anything to forsake that. I'm going to make sure that mentally I'm good to go before I open my mouth up and trying to tell you about how to overcome something or stay alive or stuff like that. When you're dealing with, what I was dealing with, you're not in the right mind for that stuff, man. So I had to, and
Yeah,
I've got some
I can
wonderful,
understand it, my
wonderful
brother.
people around
I
me.
can understand it. Let's pivot a little bit. So, look, question: how did you get into the industry so tough that you was able to get your own firearm? Like, how did
You
that
know,
come about?
honestly, believing in yourself, and even when you don't want to, when you're terrified to, especially when you're terrified to, because I'm gonna tell you something, man. When you make a video and you put it out there, you open to scrutiny. Come
Oh
on,
my
man.
God! I'm like, ooh, I'm
Come
about to
on,
delete, and I might take me a
keyboard
week.
warriors. Yeah, bro.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, man. Everybody on you, man. Because it's easier to be the person commenting and critiquing than it is to put yourself out there with that kind of vulnerability. When you put yourself out there and you're trying to teach somebody, or you're sharing how to do something, you're opening yourself up to a lot of scrutiny. But I'll tell you, man, the number one reason why I was able to come out so tough, as you put it, is because I was fulfilling my purpose. When you're fulfilling your purpose, everything falls in line. I've had people ask me, "Hey, man, why does it look like it's so easy for you? And we're doing the same thing, and it's not for us." And I couldn't answer that question. You know, I'm sure I said just some fluff crap, but now that I'm thinking about it now, with what I know now, it's because I was fulfilling my purpose. This is what I was put here to do. If God is the manufacturer and He manufactured you, you need to be asking Him, why am I here? Why did you put me together and you got me here? If you want to know, why your car runs the way it runs, you need to ask the manufacturer, right? So I would highly advise people to do that check in, bro. Yeah, man. Listen,
Hey,
listen.
that's a little.
Li-
This ain't Sunday. That's a little church. That was some
hey,
church.
bro. Listen. Well, look.
Amen.
Pull up. Hey, man. I'm serious because you know there's there's too many of us out here that are lost, and that is 100%. I've been there. I know the most people around me aren't doing it. You got what I'm saying? Like it's just we go to work, we come home, you ain't even got enough time for yourself, let alone your family. You're miserable. Check in with yourself and figure out what your purpose is. Please do, because once you're walking in your purpose, everything is fulfilled.
Mm.
Money comes, everything, doors open that you never thought would open. Never. Smith and Wesson, having your own gun, all that kind of stuff. Walking in your purpose. And you have to do it with confidence. That's why it's so important. Walk in your purpose and look and see how things start to change around you. And it's instant. But you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta have faith in yourself. You gotta know what your purpose is, and you just gotta go do it. There's no other way around it. Until you figure that out, you're gonna be lost. You're
But
gonna
let me
feel
ask you this
empty
though.
inside. It ain't gonna be
I'm
right.
I'm
Go ahead.
I'm 100% with you, but the game is not the same for us it is for other people in that world. Like
Sure,
we still playing catch up. You know what I'm saying? We still
sure,
playing catch up. We just now kind of catching up to the game. But back
sure.
then, bro, you had a Smith and Wesson Elite Provectus Group. Like
The
that was
practice of
Provectus Elite. That was major because it was Smith and Wesson. I don't think I seen one since then. So
yeah.
you know, you know what I'm saying?
Not
Like
until I come
that.
back out with it. I'm gonna come back out with it, and it's gonna be even better. It'll be better than anything on the market, and I'm gonna compete with Staccato. Heard it here
Ooh,
first.
ooh.
Yeah, bro.
I'm just
I
saying,
ain't
but
playing.
that in itself is major because eh, you know when you go to SHOT Show, I've been a couple times, and you don't see a lot of us, and we're not like real representing the 2A space, and that's kind of why I started Heavy Metal Lifestyle, the brand, because I was just like, man, I want to wear something that represents me, that what I'm doing, where I'm from, all this. I'm not from Nine Line. I'm not a military dude. I respect all my
Right.
homies and my guys. I'm not about that.
Yep,
I'm about just
yep,
woke up one day and said, "Have my lifestyle." You know what I'm saying? Just
yep.
everybody think we a rock star when you out there, chitty chitty bang
That's
bang.
right.
So why not? So,
Nice
and that was the
shirts.
move. But it's kind of like you see people with guns, but I'm just like, man, Ken had a Provectus. It was a Smith and Wesson. I got a bunch of Smith and Wessons. I'm just like, man, that was just major. And like, how did that come about, or you can speak on it, or what was that relationship? How did you build that
um.
relationship to that point where they was like, you know what, Ken, we want to do a firearm with you?
So what people don't know is that the Provectus Elite, we did it ourselves. Myself and a company at the time called Tier Defense Industries, we did it ourselves, and we kind of just did it, and we used a supplier or a a machining company that did the work for us. So it was funny because we didn't find out until we were like in for like a year or so, and then found out that other folks that had attempted this, got cease and desist orders, from Smith and Wesson. And we never got one, thank God. But that wasn't with Smith and Wesson. I just decided to do it on the Smith and Wesson. We were, and what was so funny is that it was always supposed to be Glock first because Glock is more popular. So from a business standpoint, you'll make more money starting with a more popular firearm. But the reason why I had started with the Smith is because I had a lot of students that were always saying, "Hey, man, you gotta try Smith and Wesson, bro." And when it was the version one, I didn't like them. They didn't shoot that well to me. I didn't like them at all. But when the M2.0 came out and I tried it, boy, night and day. And right at the last minute, we had to switch it up, and it was very successful, man. There were features on the firearm. It had slide cuts and stuff like everybody, but we had like a ledge, a racking ledge on it. So like if you wanted to rack the firearm off of the rear sight, we milled the slide in front of that rear sight so that it would increase the surface area of that front sight by 25%. So you had a higher likelihood of catching whatever it is that you were trying to rack that slide off of. You were probably going to be able to do it consistently, and under stress, things like that, man. The firearm was really good. Like when we milled the slide, yeah, we milled it so you can get, better, traction with your hand, better grip and stuff. But we monitored how much weight we were taking out of it and would look at it under a slow motion camera. And we're using accelerometers so that we knew exactly how it affected the recoil, not the actual recoil that the 9 millimeter produces, but after the 9 millimeter goes off, and then the metal and the gun and the weight and all that absorb what it absorbs, you have what's left is called perceived recoil, what we feel. We really wanted to make sure that we were not compromising in any area. The firearm was legit, man. Like,
But
and it's coming back. We coming back.
yeah, but you can speak on this a little bit. That firearm had a lot of stuff that was on it that they wasn't doing at the time. Like
Nah,
they wasn't doing some of the stuff that you put on that M&P. They wasn't doing that. They didn't have that
you know
some
what?
of
You're
that
right.
stuff.
You are right.
And
Especially when
then
I look at the carry comps and stuff now.
it's like,
I'm like,
okay,
dang,
yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah,
like
that
some of that
slide
stuff
look
was
good,
before
bro.
its time when I was looking at it because some of my like I got a guy, and his name is Doug. He's from ATEI, and I swear he's probably the godfather. I want to say the originator of serrations. His serrations were like wavy, and he was doing this. He's been doing this for 30, 40 years, and then like people are like coming. They started getting the serrations on it, but his thing was function first. And
That's
only why I'm bringing that up because that MVP reminded me of function first. Everything on there was function. It wasn't Gucci. It was Gucci, but it was like a
hmm
purpose. It was purpose driven, and
that's
it
right.
was from a shooter that shoots. And you brought all that from a firefighter that you probably didn't know. You brought all that information from a firefighter, being security, being a police officer, and you put it in that firearm, and you
Yep.
could tell when you seen it. And like I said, that firearm was probably ahead of its
I
time.
appreciate that.
Definitely ahead of its time.
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate the kind words, man, because for us, it's kind of like a blip on the radar, man. So when you hear folks saying what you're saying, it meant something to folks. You know what I mean? And it meant way more than just, hey, this is a cool gun. Like, what I was trying to translate into a firearm was what was received. Like you said it was Gucci, but it wasn't because it was trying to be Gucci. Honestly, like what I remember telling my guys, the only thing regarding how it looks is the Cerakote color they picked. So we came up with this. We called it tactical peanut butter, man. That brown on brown. It was that brown multicam on the top. Remember, we did the slide in that brown multicam, and then the frame was in the burnt bronze or something, some kind of man. That damn gun was so damn pretty. Oh
So,
my
so
boy!
did Smith and Wesson then reach out to you after the gun was out and say, "Hey, man, this is like, how did that like?" Because you
No,
said other
no.
people
So
got a
how the
cease and desist. So how
so
did that work out?
so 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 what ended up happening is I developed a relationship with Smith and Wesson after doing videos on their Smith and Wesson, and it was when the 2.0 came out. Is a 5-inch FDE M 2.0, and I was shooting the hell out of that thing. Man, I think I put like 3,000 rounds through it
Hey,
the
that's a
first
nice
week.
boy. That's a nice gun. Still is.
Woo! Yes, yeah, I still have that gun. It has over 100,000 rounds through it now, and it's framed. I've got my first Glock I had. It was a Glock 17 Gen 3, I think, and it's got 100,000 rounds. That's what the first gun I had that built this company. Then the second one was that M&P 2.0. I got them both framed up nicer in the 100,000 round club, man. And what it was is you mentioned something earlier about how there's not a lot of representation regarding black people in the community or in the firearm industry, and we're just now starting to get there. I remember going to NRA and going to SHOT Show and only seeing like 4 black people, 5 black people a day, a day. And at sometimes, man, a couple days. I remember, I think it was NRA, man. Here, I don't know, it wasn't here in Atlanta. I can't remember. I think it was in Indianapolis or somewhere, and I saw like 5 black people in 2 days, bro. And I'm not the one that usually be like looking for that kind of stuff, but when you're in a sea of white people and that's it, you do notice it. But there's an advantage to that too, um, because if you're black and you know what you're doing, you're going to stand out, and so you have to learn, how to overcome those types of things and find the positive in it. And I would caution, all of us to be that way. Find the positive in it because the positive definitely is if you're halfway decent and you're black, you're going to stand out and you can become a high commodity. And that's what I betted on. And so I made the videos with Smith and or I made the videos on the Smith and Wessons. and I was a believer, bro. Like, and still am to this day. They're like one of the only companies that will accept a firearm from for reviews. All the rest of them we pay for.
And,
Um,
and then I also remember you saying when you took, and I don't know, like when in the industry, how because you were so deep down. And it seems like it was just, especially now with social media, it's kind of like hard to even break into that, to that world, or to get relationships. How can you build relationships, or do they really be paying at Instagram, or is it more like I know him, I'm gonna put you on kind of situation, or do they really
a little
go
bit of both.
and check out
A
like,
little
oh,
bit of
he's an
both.
IG influencer? Well, we know the top, the top ones that got all them
Sure.
followers, but
Sure, sure. Yeah, it's a little bit of both. It does help if somebody can make an introduction for you. But at the end of the day, you got to have your ducks in a row. Your T's got to be crossed, your I's got to be dotted. These are billion-dollar companies, multi-million-dollar companies. If they're going to associate themselves with you, you got to be a certain way. You got to act a certain, like not act like them. No, like you have to be marketable. Okay. It's just like anything else. If you're a successful business person, I'm not going to partner with someone that has or represents something that I don't. You got what I'm saying?
hmm
That's not. So I would say it's, I didn't have anybody introduce me to Smith and Wesson. I did my research. I knew who to reach out to and talk to, and I took my ass to NRA, and I went and I introduced myself. And I just so happened to introduce myself at the time to the vice president of marketing, and I told him a little bit about myself. And I really just explained before we even got to, hey, I make videos and stuff. I just explained how, I've been Glock, 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 Glock. I tried this M&P, and oh my, like and they could sense the excitement. I pulled out my phone. I had my videos already ready to rock. Hey, he watched 30 seconds of it. It was easily, you can see, oh, and he goes, I'm going to introduce you to such and such. We
and
walked right over. He introduced me, go ahead, I'm listening.
Oh, I'm just saying because it's funny you said that because what you was like, I went out to NRA, this and that. Like people keep telling me, Heavy, you got to get out. Heavy, you got to get out. You got to get out and
Yeah,
network, talk to people. And I'm just
yeah.
like, man, you know what? I do, I do, because I get invited to stuff, I don't show up, and it's in this couple of reasons. It's my son was younger, he was in baseball, so we was always traveling, and it was always like something is going on during that time. And I'm just like, listen, I'm not about to. I'm gonna go watch my son play baseball before I go to that. It wasn't. It wasn't
Right.
even that
Absolutely.
serious. It was serious,
You're
but
right.
it wasn't that serious. I was like, listen, my son playing baseball. That's where I'm gonna be at, regardless. And so I was just like, man, now I need to get out. It's just funny you said that because they was always talking about, look, you
So
want to get to
you got
gatekeepers.
to get in front of them.
Yeah, you
You
got to
got
get
to
in
get
front
in
of
front.
people.
And then too, you can't be afraid. So like, here's something that I did as well. I'm sitting there in front of the firearm. What a better way to make a lasting impression than to go ahead and crank off a video right then and there. You know, Obviously, when I went and introduced myself to Smith and Wesson, I was by myself. But as the years went on, our team grew. We had cinematographers, so when I would show up, I got two, three guys with me that are filming. So then when I go to do that same type of introduction, because you can't just bank on somebody knowing who you are, and that kind of stuff. And plus, I don't really care a whole lot about that anyway. I want to show you who I am live. So it was nothing for me to crank off a video right then and there, right in front of them, so they can see how I produce content, how I speak. And when you see a professional, you know what a professional looks like. And so it starts at home. Make sure your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. Don't be afraid to get in front of them. Believe in yourself. You have to have something that you're offering that would be considered an asset. You got what I'm saying? Um, you got to understand a little bit about business too. You got to understand a little bit about the back end. When they send a firearm out to somebody, what type of review are they going to get? What audience do you reach? You need to know your numbers, and you need to know what your demographics are. You need to know what the age range of your audience is. You need to know what their ethnicities are, what countries you're reaching. all that kind of stuff. You got to know that stuff off the top of your head. You've got to be a professional. These are professional companies, businesses that are doing very well. And to be honest with you, in some ways, they don't really need you, you know? So you got to know that stuff. Do your homework. Know who the marketing manager is, know who the VP of marketing is. Everybody, you got to know that stuff, when you go through the list of the people that are in the marketing department, go on their Facebook and see the things that they're interested in so that you see if you got any common ground. Like it helps to be a people person, like some of these things are basic, but then some of these things are, you got to actually know a little bit about it because you got to think at a show like SHOT Show that lasts 5 days, they're going to have hundreds of dudes in front of them talking about the same crap. How are you going to set yourself apart? And I'm going to tell you something. If you're black, you got the leg up in a lot of ways, man, because they're going to remember a black guy that showed up and that was mad professional and knew what he was talking about. He or she was talking. They're going to remember that.
You know
They're going to
one
remember.
thing, and my homeboys tell me, stop. He said, "Man, it's okay to be goofy," and I'm just saying that for lack of a better
Hell
word.
yeah.
But it's hard. Listen, I'm never like celebrity struck. If I see a celebrity, I ain't running up to taking pictures. I ain't like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna like, hey man, let me talk to you. Cause if you look at me a certain way or I get a certain vibe, I'm like, all right, then it's gonna be like, you know what I'm saying? Then it's gonna be like something else. And then it's like, okay, I can't be like that here because
Yep.
it's,
Yep.
you know
Yep.
what I'm
Yep.
saying? So it take I gotta get better at going and talking to people. I mean, I'm a people person after you get to know me kicking it, but if I don't know you, I don't really approach you unless I can get an introduction from somebody else. Like, hey man, this is my boy Heavy.
Sure.
Oh yeah, then we off and popping. But before that,
Right.
I'm kind of like standoffish because one, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, your vibe or how you look, because you could be. I hear this too, and I heard this a couple times. Like once you get to SHOT Show, you find that your idols are creeps or something like that. And I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
really? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A
So
lot of them are weird, man. Weird. Real weird. Like dudes that you would never hang out with outside of. You ain't even really trying to hang out with them at SHOT Show NRA, bro. I'm
Right,
serious.
right, right. So
God,
I if I'm around you, I can sense that, and then especially when you go there, I'm just like I gotta talk to you about your gun. Boo, boo, boo. You could look at me. I could be the 99th person to talk to you, and you could just be tired because you didn't listen to everybody else coming and pitch the same thing, the same thing.
that's right.
Everybody want to be the next this, next that, and I'm just like, man, I
That's
don't be
right.
on that tip. But I guess like I said, I
So there's
gotta get a
a
little bit
strategy.
better with
There's a
that.
strategy with that too. I would say the earlier in the week that you can do those types of meetings, the better. Because when Thursday and Friday rolls around at SHOT Show, it's a no go. The other thing too is that you have to understand how to follow up properly. I'm gonna be honest. So I've been really considering putting together a course or a mentor group or some kind of something talking about these exact things, but also how to produce content, how to produce high quality content, show all the different levels of it. So like if you want to come in on a budget, hey, all right, if you're on the budget end of things, like as cheap as possible, these are the mandatory things that you got to have. Here's a mid tier. Here's the high tier. Right. This is what your production quality is going to look like, and these are the things that are important. And then teaching the basics of how to talk about a product, and what that looks like. Even showing you, how to know what your audience wants. Show you how to take what you do and turn that into marketing terminology or a marketing mindset. I want to do that. I've done that a couple times when I had my headquarters open. We did that and we were showing people how to do exactly that, how to create content, how to know what to create content on. And I'm going to be honest with you, you stick with the fundamentals. Whatever it is that you do, stick with the fundamentals. Because when you look at your audience, all right, and we say your audience and we're looking at it as a whole of 100%, 80 to 90% of them only want the fundamentals. Even higher than that, 95% of it only are there to understand the very basics. The very basics. A very small percentage of your audience care about the advanced stuff. It's
Mm.
no different than beginners, intermediates, and advanced shooters. You got way more beginners and beginner intermediates than you will ever have an intermediate or an advanced shooter. So stick with the fundamentals. One of the ladies that came to this seminar, she does makeup. I don't know how to damn do makeup, but I understand I understand the blueprint. So when I was talking with her, I was like, hey, listen, what I would be focused on is teaching young girls the basics of how to put on foundation, the basics of how to put on mascara, and whatever else they do. But by sticking to the fundamentals, you're going to appeal to the widest audience. You'll have the highest likelihood of getting people to subscribe, follow, whatever you're wanting them to do. Come on your website, buy stuff, take a class, do whatever. That's the number one thing that you need to be making content on. For me, it's not going to be moving and shooting and how to shoot under a second and stuff like that. That looks cool, but when I go and I start talking to you about the fundamentals of how to stand and how to hold and how to align the sights, and things like that, that's going to garner way more attention because way more people don't know how to do that.
Well,
So
it's funny that you said
that's
that.
where you start.
Well, some of the well, when you look up like content to make, like some of the top ones, and it varies, but it's always first pistol, how to, for what pistol to buy, what this, what that. But it's always the beginning stages. It's never like the fast,
Basics.
and it's always, well, how to carry or how to consider conceal. But it's always the
Mm-mm.
like intro level to stuff. It's never like, oh, the fast way to get to a sub second draw. But because it's every day is new gun owners, so they need more information because
Uh-huh.
it's always new gun owners being born, so they need that information
Yep.
because you're
Yep.
not getting all the information when you leave that CPL class. You still got 100 questions. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? You
absolutely.
still got 100 questions.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So whatever industry you're in, it's the same case.
right,
It's the exact same case. Go back to the makeup lady. When a young girl does her makeup for the first time, she's got 100 questions,
right,
thousands.
right.
You need to be that trusted resource where she can come to and can get that information. And I'll give you another pro tip. If you can make it entertaining, oh boy, you make somebody laugh. It's called edutainment, man. We're educating you and I'm entertaining you. Remember the 8 second mindset? I mean, people have about an 8 second, you know, um, attention span. They can only really focus on something for about 8 seconds and then they're distracted. They want to move on to the next. So you have to constantly keep what you're talking about fresh, changing stuff up on the screen, all that kind of good stuff to keep their attention. But like there's a science to it, but it's a very simple science. It's not crazy, but I've been thinking about doing it. I want to do, there's another piece of equipment that I want to buy that's going to be pivotal in doing this, but I want to do something like this online and we make it like an e-learning class, man, because I want to see everybody having that success, um, that they can have. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that's your purpose, we need you fulfilling it so people can be learning stuff. Whatever it is, it ain't got to be gun related. Be whatever it is, we need to be educating people in the right way. You
Well,
know,
like I said, you are a great teacher. And I haven't took your class, but
appreciate
I can just tell watching the videos and talking to the homies,
that.
like the way you explain and talk. I'm like, man, I can rock with Ken. I can rock with Ken. I can rock with Big Dog. Like he breaking it down, and the way you present it, people can consume it, and it's not over the top. It's not too analytical. It's not too like this and this or too much. A person like, man, I don't even get that. But you present it in a way that I can consume it and I can process it, and it's for me. I'm like, okay, I got what he's saying. So you definitely
Let me
got
ask you
that
this
gift.
question. This is a serious question. We're about to bring Provectus Academy, and it's going to be online. You're going to be able to take every class that we offer and some online. Do you think that that would be good for the industry? Just personally speaking, I'm just asking you.
I'm gonna say yes because I wanna in this like the Maj Toure class. I think it's the civil. He got a civil class. It's like 30 minutes or 50 something, whatever it is, like $20, $30, and you
Mhm.
can learn certain things. So I think because it's coming from us and this education that we need, hell yeah, hell yeah, they need
Okay.
it. Hell yeah, hell
Well,
yeah.
I
Because
want to bring just okay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
only why I said it because one like what I was saying is because the way you talk and speak, people are gonna be like, okay, I want to see what he got to say, even if they don't even know
Okay.
what it is or whatever. It's like he got something to say. And how? Oh, this sound okay. I need to listen to this
Okay.
because he's so positive. He's so you know what I'm saying. The way you present it is like, oh, I got it, bro is talking
Okay.
about something. You know what I'm saying? Not a
Okay.
hook. Now it's like, oh, I gotta look at the next one. And like you said,
Okay.
people's attention span is like 8 seconds. So that 15-30 minute video is gonna be crucial
Right.
because they
It
always
is.
on the go. We always on the
So
go.
I want to with Provectus Academy, we're going to be bringing a lot more than just firearm training, self defense. I'm going to have Fourth Amendment education on there from a police officer, so that I want the playing field to be evens. When I'm pulled over by a police officer, I'm not worrying about anything that cop is doing, whether they doing something out of line or not, because the playing field is even. I know all the authority that he has, and I understand his limitations. They have way more limitations than you think. So I want to educate people so that the playing field is even. Not so then you don't have to be combative. You're like, oh no, I understand the kind of authority that you have, and this doesn't sound right. You got what I'm saying? And you don't have
Yeah,
to be combative. You don't have to do any of those types of things. We're gonna have stuff like that. You mentioned something earlier. Something that I've been teaching to law enforcement for a long time is um, criminal conduct and behavior, body language, things like that. Even down to understanding body language or certain things that you only see for milliseconds. They call them micro expressions and stuff like that. I'm not teaching you so you use it on your spouse because it will cause problems, big time. But and I mean big time because like when I was knee deep in learning this, it would come up between me and my wife, and luckily my wife is amazing, but she'd be like, "You using them tactics?" So I'm like, "No, I ain't using them tactics," but no, I want to teach people exactly what I teach law enforcement when it comes to looking at body language, knowing what it means, and having faith in it, and having everything that you need so that you know exactly what you see. You can see it in milliseconds and understand it, and you can, on the fly, be able to pivot left, right, do whatever you need to do. The biggest thing is so that it can enhance your situational awareness. We've got some courses or videos that we've already recorded that are about to be released that are talking about situational awareness in and around your vehicle, things that you should do, situational awareness at the gas station, situational awareness at the grocery store, situational awareness at the bank, situational awareness at your job. These are the 4 to 5 places that people are visiting weekly. That's the reason why we picked those places. Restaurant was on there as well, because when you're utilizing situational awareness and you understand criminal conduct and behavior, body language in general, you literally have a leg up. Period. I have a leg up because of the things that I know. I'm able to keep my family and the other strangers around me safer because I'm going to be able to recognize that a bad guy is going to be here sooner then later, and I can warn people. And now you actually have the ability to take away the victims. Hey, everybody, guys, been to come in here. We can go lock the door, keep them from coming in. Knowing where your exits are, all that kind of stuff. Man, it's a cheat code. It's several cheat codes, man. So we're gonna have stuff like that. It's gonna be way more than just firearms, and the reason why is because the likelihood of you having to use your firearm is very, very low. The problem is that if that situation arises, you got to get it right. That's the caveat to it, right? So the emphasis on firearm training will always be at a very high level. But what has to accompany that, and what you're more than likely to deal with, is knowing or dealing with or needing to understand situational awareness from a wholesome standpoint and feel comfortable within that, knowing body language to the point where you could recognize criminal conduct and behavior. I utilize these tactics when I would pull somebody over. I pulled you over for speeding, but now I'm investigating you because of the indicators and the things that you're doing. We got armed robbers. We got robbers that have robbed gas stations in another jurisdiction. Ain't no lookout, no what do they call it on movies and stuff? APB. We don't call it APB. It was called Bolo. Be on the lookout. No Bolo has been put out over the radio. Wherever they did the robbery, law enforcement are just now getting there. They don't know a description of a car, description of the people, but we already got them on the side of the road. We might have stopped them for their window tint or whatever, but because of how they're acting, we know that a crime has been or is currently being committed, and we follow it by the letter of the law. And we were very, very good at it. And we got armed robbers that way, man. Found the gun, the money, the whole nine. You know, just because of that stuff. Like it was incredible. We learn these tactics to get drugs, but it works for any crime, any crime. So I want to share that with people because I utilize those tactics now. I'm not trying to find drugs or criminals, but I do want to know when a criminal's here. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
uh,
So let's get into this too, because one big thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I know it's gonna play a part in what you're trying to do, is to right to bear. Because I said to
yeah,
myself, if Big Dog Ken is involved in it, I want in. Like I want to know about it, I want to learn about it, because
yeah,
I seen Barber. Barber's a part of it too. I'm just like, okay, wait a
yep,
minute, they got some heavy hitters in here, but definitely
yep.
keying on it. I need to know what it is. So how, like, talk to us about, the right to bear, because I know they're gonna play a part in what you're doing with your programs, because some it's gonna
Yeah.
go together.
So, right to bear, it is not insurance like everyone else. Okay, it's the only one that is a membership. Now, what does that mean? One, it's the most affordable in the country. Period. There's no one who's cheaper than us. Period. And the reasoning why is because we're not an insurance. We're not having to pay these premiums and all that stuff for these huge policies to cover everybody. But what that also means is that there's no clauses and all that kind of stuff in the paperwork that you're signing that's saying, hey, so say you're involved in a case that we just feel like is too much, on the fence, we can just decide to not cover you, and that's literally what it's like with all the other companies except for Right to Bear. And that's because it is a membership. What attracted, so here's what initially attracted me to Right to Bear. I had several people come up to me and say, hey, you heard this company called Right to Bear? I'm like, no, I ain't heard about that company. And they're like, hey, man, it's like really cheap, much, much cheaper than everybody else. You know, can you look into it and kind of tell us what you think? And I looked into it and I said, well, the coverage looks good. The coverage looks the exact same as everybody else. And they offered other coverages that other companies that I was actually representing at the time didn't offer. So that kind of piqued my interest. One of those things was, with some of the companies, if you are an armed professional, there's no coverage for you, because the likelihood of you being involved in a situation where you'll need that coverage is much higher likelihood than just a regular person. So there was no coverage for that. There was no family coverage. There were none of those things, and it kind of piqued my interest. So when I broke ties with the companies I was dealing with, um, then and then I continued to look into Right to Bear, and then I started having more people reach out to me, and then I said, all right, let me reach out to the company, and then I reached out to the company, and I was on the phone with the president and the vice president right then. And you know how when you're on the phone with somebody or you're on a Zoom call and you're talking to good dudes, genuine salt to the earth type people, like that's what it was like. There was no selling, there was no well, we're this and we're better than them because of that. It was none of that. It was here's who we are. Our coverages are what they are because we're not having to pay these crazy policies. Our coverage is where it is because we're not greedy. The coverage is exceptional because we all we want our folks to know, our members to know, is that when you need us, we're going to be there. And when I tell you now, they have cases that they're having that they're dealing with right now and working with people on. In some of those cases, the other companies would have been like, absolutely not. And it's already been proven from the folks that have been dropped, or who weren't represented when they thought they were going to be with the other companies. And that was the first thing, like that feeling that I got from them. And then I went out there and I visited them, and I was expecting, especially with my background of knowing body language and then knowing bullshit. Let's just call it what it is. We know what bullshit is, man. You can't if you don't know, you got a problem. And then you go there and it's exactly the same. Everything that I felt about them over the phone and the Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff, it was reinforced in person. You can't fake it. You can't fake that. You can't fake none of that. And the number one thing I kept hearing over and over and over again is, we want folks to know that when you need us, we're going to be there. We're not looking for reasons to drop you. In fact, they're looking for ways to educate you. That's why they brought me on. They want to educate you so that you know how to deal with these issues. You know what I'm saying? One, to avoid it, right? Because don't nobody ever want to, I promise you don't want to ever deal with any of that. Shootings, having to defend yourself at that level. It is, man, getting sued for that kind of stuff when you're in the right, it really sucks, man. It's
So
really, go ahead.
so what's like a key, like some of the keys different? Well, some of the key differences that separate the right to bear from like the other two.
The number one is that it's not insurance, so
Okay.
you don't have to worry
Oh well,
about
yeah.
that clause
Okay.
that's going, oh, hey, we're just not going to cover you. And that's literally what they can do because it's insurance. I'm telling you, like, go and read the fine print, please. I would say that is the number one thing. You have a much higher risk of being dropped. Okay, meaning you abided by the law, you were well within in the law, it was considered self-defense, but because of whatever, they're not covering you. So now you're footing the bill for all that. No, nobody ain't got no money for that kind of stuff, for the attorney fees, and that stuff gets outrageous. And don't own a business, they coming for you. They coming.
Well,
So that's number one. And then the second thing is, it's way more affordable. Period.
right.
It's what you should be paying. And when you look at nowadays, and eggs costing what they cost, like, people been living paycheck to paycheck. We robbing Peter to pay Paul. Come on, man. I know people who need that $40. You know what I mean? They need that so they can eat.
Right.
So now I've got something, and I'm gonna tell you something, man. And it was honestly one of the first times where I was representing a company and I know people can afford it. I know this is a product that I'm bringing my folks, and I ain't talking about black, but I'm talking my audience, people in the industry. I'm bringing this to you. You can afford this, and your family's actually going to be protected. Those are the two number one things that I would say, man, because if you can't afford it, you're not going to have it anyway.
Well,
So go ahead.
and that was like one of the things when I went on there to start looking, and especially when when you go get a CPL license, it's $110 whatever, and then you go get a firearm. So that's another 400-500 to get a respectable, good one. But then now you got insurance that you should be getting. That could be like 50,
Yep.
60 or whatever it is. And I seen this,
Bro.
and I was like, the insurance on there is like 17 or something dollars, but you can add to it
Yep.
what you need. And I was like, at the end of the day, two people is $34. A single mom
Yep.
got $34. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, and I always
Right.
think about the single moms that's getting firearms, that's getting
Yes.
there to protect themselves, because that's
Yes.
one of the
Yes.
growing that's one of the growing demographics now. Are single moms going to
Absolutely.
get CPL license and going to get firearms. So I'm like, $34,
Yep.
they can, they got $34 to protect themselves, and
Yep.
for something happening. And that likely, that's why I was like real curious. I was like, man, this is like a la carte. You can just add this
Listen.
and this if you need it.
So,
And if you don't, like the nationwide coverage or whatever it is,
mhm,
if you're not leaving, if
exactly.
leaving the state a lot, you don't need it, or you can drop it or whatever. And I'm just
Exactly.
like, okay, all right,
Exactly. And here's
I'm
the
digging
thing,
it.
you can add it, and you can add. Here's the cool thing: like, if you know you traveling out of town and you're gonna take your firearm, you can add it and then take it right back off. Like, they're not gonna give you a hard time. That's what That's what they tell people. Like it's so look, and actually I have a code that I can share, and
Definitely
it'll
give.
save people
Yeah.
even more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just use code Provectus, Provectus at checkout, and not only will it give you a lower rate now, it's locked in for life. As long as you got that membership, that's your rate. You'll be just use the code, and you're gonna save even more money. And that's what's good. Now here's what's also good too. You're still getting all the education. I'm one of the main folks that's putting education into their member portal. You can still get the in-person classes like you're getting with some of the other companies that we compete with. It's the value is insane. It's absolutely insane. We know. Here's what I will. This is what I'll say. We know what it's like when we're being sold. We know what it's like when you being sold to somebody just sitting there selling and doing all this. We know what it's like to be marketed to. You know when you stand in front of somebody, you're looking at a commercial, and it's talking about do this and we're gonna give you some free prizes and stuff like that. Keep that free shit. Excuse my French. Keep all that free shit. Give me the coverage I need, and don't take it away when I need you. Okay,
Right.
and make it affordable. You cannot tell me that you care about anybody when you're double and triple for the
Right.
same for less. So I'm gonna tell you something, man. We only partner with one company, man. We've had throughout my career, man. I've had as many as 9 to 10 partners signed at one time. I just have one, man. It's Right to Bear, because I've been in the industry long enough. I've been burned several times by these companies not taking care of my people, putting my name on the line. You know what I mean? I don't do that crap no more. Okay, it feels real good to be with a company like Right to Bear. Not only do we align, as people. I'm talking about people. Forget the company. I care about the people. I don't give a damn about a company. Okay, I care about the dudes and the women that work there. Who are they? Because those are when the shit's hitting the fan, it's their character that's going to shine. You got what I'm saying? So I want to know who you are. So the president, the vice president, and everybody down below, they're good people.
And,
That's
and
what I care about because I want my folks to be taken care of. Period.
and like you said, I immediately thought about the neighborhoods and the moms and the pops, the people that get firearms that need this coverage and need the education, and it's not like you know where all the other ones are or whatever it is, and then another thing, like I said, I seen you behind it, so I can almost 100% just get behind it because I'm just like, look,
Yep.
if Ken behind it, I need to look what this is. I need to find out because I want to push it. I feel whatever you
Yeah.
got
Yep.
feeling. That's how I feel. Just because I respect you that much. Just
Right.
because the time
I appreciate
since we've
that.
been
And
in contact. Right. I respect it. So I'm
dude,
like
listen,
I
I,
gotta
I
find out about
appreciate
it.
that, man. But that's what I was talking about earlier, man. People they entrust in you, man. If they see me, rocking with this company, please. All I'm saying, don't go and just blindly go and sign up. Absolutely not. Do not do that. Anybody that's hearing this, go and do your due diligence. Go and check out Right to Bear. I want you to compare them to everyone. I know that Right to Bear will come out on top because it is clear as day that they're better. But I want you to feel that way about it. And
Right.
then when you do feel that way about it, you use that code so you can save you even more money because it's got to be in the budget.
You
Even if
know,
you got the money, save some. You know what I'm saying?
it's one thing you said I was gonna ask you earlier. You
Mhm.
said because you had like 9 or 10 companies that you was partnered with, and I know at one
Yeah, man.
point you had got like mad frustrated with the industry and what things were going on. I mean, just you don't have to get deep down into it, but just speak a little bit about it because don't nobody
Which
really.
part? That's happened a few times. So
Well,
which one
I
you
mean,
talking?
you said you got burned a couple times. The industry wouldn't take care of your
Oh yeah,
people. It just,
yeah.
don't you don't have to say no company names, whatever. But just, because I
Well,
was gonna ask you that because I was like, man, Ken, I know you had got frustrated a long time ago with the industry, And that's
Yeah.
kind of like when you
Uh,
was parting ways,
so-
like, peace, I'm out, dropping the mic, I'm out.
yeah,
Um,
man. So, this is something that you just have to watch just in general. And some of this comes down to, being black and stuff like that, and not being offered the same deals that your white counterpart is being offered, and things like that. That stuff is frustrating. It and that stuff is going to happen. I think, but at the same time, I think that it forced me to do was what I should have already been doing. Um, you have to set yourself up, your brand, and whatever you're doing, to a point to where they have to come and sit down at your table. And when you finally get to the point where that's the case, now you're controlling what's going on. Okay. And until you get there, you're going to have to deal with it. I have a very different term for it, and I'm definitely not going to say it here. But, those types of things can and will happen. But you have to understand it's going to be like that in any industry that you're in. Okay. There's going to be those types of people with those types of things happening. But I promise you that the most positive way that I found to deal with that, to get past those things, is to cross your T's and dot your I's and put yourself in a position where they got to come and sit down at your table. When you build your brand to the point, they got to come and talk to you. They got to. And then you're dictating what's going on. The other thing is I partner with companies that we were doing certain deals together, and there were supposed to be certain amount of money comes to me, certain amount of money goes to them, and then come to find out I wasn't getting what I was supposed to be getting money wise, and they were leaving out some of the sales, and they were making sales on their own that I wasn't aware of. I've dealt with that kind of stuff. It sucks dealing with that, but that's a part of it as well. But again, at the end of the day, it made me stronger because then I learned, okay, what provisions can I put in place on my end to ensure that kind of stuff never happens? How can I pick better partners? You know, what are the things that I should be looking at within their business, with their business practices and stuff, like not just the personal stuff, but on the business side, how well do they run their business? There were red flags that I should have saw, or did see and ignored. So, those things are going to happen. And what I would say is when they happen, feel the emotion. You're going to be mad. The easy thing to do is to point the finger. But the number one thing that you should be doing is looking back at yourself and going, what are things that I can do to prevent these types of things from happening? What red flags did I not see or I should have saw that could have prevented this? And what provisions can I put in place to prevent this from happening in the future? So now, when it comes to dealing with companies, when I see certain red flags, man, I see that stuff so early, and I just won't deal with them. And then honestly too, now we have pretty much a policy. We deal with companies like Smith and Wesson, we deal with Taurus and stuff like that. But like all those other companies we were dealing with, I mean, left and right, everybody, all the firearm companies, all we ain't dealing with them no more, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's because it's when a company gives you something, it's extremely hard to not be biased. When a company gives you a firearm and they want you to do a review, it's extremely hard to say something negative. Okay? So, the best thing to do, and this is what we do, we just buy them ourselves, we do our reviews, and that's it. Now we're going to do a thing where we're going to be buying them and then we're going to raffle them off, man, and give people opportunities to get a hold of these guns for 90% off. You know what I'm saying? Because really, it's just about giving back to the community at this point.
yeah, yeah,
So
I like
go
that
ahead.
that idea because like I would like to do gun reviews or something, but I just like what I like, and it's like it's only a couple of
That's
them,
right.
and I'm not about to try to. I'm gonna tell you what works because one, I've probably been behind it a lot running it, shooting it, competition, whatever. So I believe in it, and I'm gonna talk about it. I'm not. I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth with that idea of
Do
testing
it.
stuff out
Do
and
do
and
it.
and seeing
Do it.
seeing
You
what's what.
do it. You need to do it because your perspective is valid, and we need to know it.
Right.
Like, so here's the thing: when you come up the way I came up as an armed professional. So I forget a lot of the what it's like to coming to get a firearm for the first time as like a regular guy. You know what I mean? I don't have a lot of perspective on that. It was always armed professional, like I was using it as a job.
Right.
So I don't have the perspective of that my son already has. At 4 years old, he's saying that boy, he know more damn about a firearm than 80, 90% of the industry. And he's
Right.
7 now. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, that boy, I can leave a gun anywhere. I don't have to worry about him. He tells me what to do. Oh, hey daddy, you can't handle it that way. Here's the reasons why. And he goes boop 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 because of his environment and what he's grown up
Nice.
in. So
Nice.
no, we need you doing the reviews. Be as honest as you possibly can. And that's it. That's it. And then the ones I'm gonna tell you though, I love Smith and Wesson, but there's a lot of guns they make that I don't mess with. I don't like some of them guns they make, and I see them and go, "That was a big mistake." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's what it is, man. That's what it is. So, but it's hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to tell Springfield Armory their Prodigy is not a good gun. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell SIG that, hey, listen, the number one liability as a firearm manufacturer is to have guns going off when they're not supposed to, and y'all doing that.
Right.
Like, it's hard to do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? That stuff shouldn't be happening.
Right.
So that's what I love about where I'm at now. We just gonna buy them if it's a popular firearm, especially when I see if it's a safety something that's happening with it. Oh, we talking about it, and the company ain't gonna like where it's coming from. But it's not about if you like it; it's about is it true? And if I'm saying something about it, it shouldn't be happening. Period. Because we're talking about people. We're talking about people that are entrusting their life with this gun. It has to work as advertised.
Right.
Period. And
Definitely.
if it doesn't, you should pay for it. Period. That's
Right.
it. That is it. We are talking about the most prized possession that we'll ever be in possession of. That's our life and the lives around us that we're responsible for.
Definitely.
And you can't be treating us like this, man. Bro, when I tell you, I don't see how SIG is still in business with all these guns going off, man. And I love my SIGs, man. I
Government
do, but
contracts, they are everywhere.
bro,
I-
get out of here, bro. That is absolutely insanity. That is their number one liability. Why are they still around?
Hey,
Serious. And you still got millions of folks on the bandwagon.
I hear you.
What is that? What is that?
You know
God.
one thing, it was cool, man, to talk to you, and I ain't gonna hold you too much longer. This is the first time I actually been on the podcast for almost 2 hours, and I was in here
It's
worrying
been two
about.
hours?
Listen, I've been sitting here worrying about.
Damn.
I was like sitting here worrying about, like, man, am I gonna be able to? Because usually I got a co-host. He couldn't make it. Like I said, we are gonna try to book you on Sunday, but whatever. I was like, well, I'll just do it. So I was just like, man, I'm at work, nervous. You know what I'm saying? I got the little drink and drink. You know what I'm saying? I was just
That's
like, man,
right.
I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna talk to this dude for an hour. But I looked at the thing, I was like, oh man, it's an hour already. I didn't even ask him about the
Yeah,
right to
man.
bear arms and all this and that.
Bro, I ain't even listen. I ain't looked at my watch not one time. I did this time because it was turned all around and hurt me on my
Well, you know
phone. I
what
went,
happened? Because usually I'm
dang.
like, I got this laptop, so if an hour hit, my laptop is still charged. So I'm looking at the stuff, and that thing says low energy, and I'm over here telling my son like, hey man, I need the battery charger, the power pack, because I don't want this thing to go out. So I switched over and I plugged
Oh
it
man,
into the battery pack. But I was like, man, it's 2 hours. I was like, this the first time pop culture went 2 hours with a guest, man. First,
dude,
first,
listen, I am all for it, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like, honestly, it feels so good to be back, man. It really, really, truly does. And I ain't even really, announced it or anything.
right.
I'm only gonna say it here.
It's good
People
to
will
be
see it.
back. It's every
It
time I
does.
seen something, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm about to share. I'm about to share it. The big dog about to come back. But I got a
Yeah,
question for you.
yeah.
And this is segue to the end. Um, it's funny because some of my homies call me Heavy D, right? They like, man, you look like Heavy D. And I was scrolling
Okay.
through the new photo album, which is Instagram. I say Ken look like Al B. Shore. I was like, if I'm Heavy D, Ken over here looking like a young Al B. Shore. But what I
Yeah,
want you to
man.
do for me, man, like this just I just popped up in my head. I was like, look, if
I
this the look, if this the young Ken, what would the old Ken tell the young Ken now? Like, what would you say to him?
would say I would tell young Ken the best thing that you can do is work on your relationship with God.
Mm,
He needs to be your homie, straight up. And don't ever lose faith in him, yourself, and your family. Period. That the only, like when I've got homies that come to me and they're dealing with anything, and they're asking me for advice, that's the absolute best thing that I can tell you. Because if you want to know what healed me and took away all the depression I was dealing with, it's God, bro. 100%. And at the time, I was running from it.
mm.
So I would tell young Ken the number one thing that you need to do is work on your relationship with God.
Do you
Period.
think young Ken
He
would have listened to you?
absolutely,
Okay.
because young Ken knew, and I've always had a relationship with him, but not like I do now. Not like I do now, man. He's real, like real. When I tell you he took it from me, I mean it. And I was running from him, running. I tried all that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I was at a real bad place, man. Seriously,
Oh,
used to
I
have no
listen.
problem.
I didn't talk to you, but I believe me when you was sharing the stuff you was sharing, I felt it because I was
Yeah,
there.
dude.
I was there.
Yeah,
I was there
yeah,
because
man.
like
Here's
when
the thing. I didn't have a relationship with my dad like that. I was surprised at what I was. It was like, what am I? Why? What the is going on? Serious.
well, in my situation, my dad passed. He was a twin. He was a fraternal twin. So I had to go from immediately not, doing the, whole he passed to I got to take care of my uncle, right? I had to
Oh,
make sure he was okay, make sure this. So I couldn't really grieve for it because I went straight into take care of mode. You know what I'm saying? So it
that's
was
right.
like I never had it, and I was just still dealing with it because I couldn't really grieve because I had to be stand up because it was just me.
That's
I
right.
was just him. It was just me and my uncle. So I had to be there. And it was just like boom, go into protect mode, take care of this. You gotta do this. You gotta go to court. You gotta go
Yep.
probate. All this
Funeral,
crap is
all
like,
that. Yeah,
man,
man. Same here. I had to do two funerals, one here in Atlanta, one in Seattle, Washington.
wow, yeah,
Everything. Everything, man. The whole thing.
right.
Whole kit and caboodle, as they call it,
Over
whatever they say.
again, one in
You know
Atlanta
what I'm
and
saying?
one in us. Right. I get,
That's
yeah.
right, man. I
So
had to
I
do it
felt it.
twice.
I
It gives a
definitely felt
eulogy
it.
twice.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and now, when I think back now, man, I remember when I used to, this was really early on, like year one, year two, you realize all the questions that, will never go answered. Questions you got for your father that you never thought about then, or you took for granted then, that you're never going to get answered. But then, uh, my father is me. And I see my father and my son every single day.
Well,
Every
I
single
look
my
just
son,
like them.
boy.
My mama be
Yeah,
like, boy,
yep,
you look
yep.
like your dad.
Yep, yep. My father is me, man. And my father, he was a wonderful man. Let me tell you something. My customer service, how I treat people, it comes from my father. That's where it comes from. When you meet that man, he always had a smile on his face, go above and beyond to ensure that your day is good. You got what I'm saying? Like, and he was like that from the time I can remember as a child up until he passed, man. Like, he was a wonderful dude, like, regardless of the relationship that we had, wonderful dude, and so I take a lot of, I have a lot of comfort and peace surrounding all that to know that he is me. You know what I mean? We're damn near exactly the same. And what's wonderful now is I get to see my son looks just like him,
Let's see
and
something.
What? Yeah, that's him.
Look at
There's
Al
him.
B. Shore.
That's me.
Look at young
So
kid.
here's what's so funny, bro. Listen, bro, I used to get that a lot. And when I say a lot, like people would look at me and then double take and anybody ever told you you look? And I go, I'll be sure. Yep. And I
I
mean, but I used to listen to Al B. Shore when I was a kid. Man, we jamming and rocking out, boy.
hey,
Shoot.
back in the day, they like, man, you look like Heavy D
Yeah, that's
now.
my
They call
daddy,
me
man.
Heavy D.
My dad is legit. Yeah, you do look like Heavy D.
But kid, okay. Hey,
Yeah,
so
that's
let
me,
people,
man.
so let the people know where they can find you at and all that good stuff.
You can find us at provectusgroup.org. That's our website. All social media. Instagram is the main one that we use at Provectus Group. Same with YouTube. If you want to go and get a lot of free content, please go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We got a ton of videos that we're putting the last little finishing touches on that we're about to drop, and they're incredible. Go and do that. When you go to our website, make sure you subscribe to the website as well, because Provectus Academy is right around the corner. It will be the absolute best firearm training course that you can take. I fully and truly believe that I'll be able to teach people better online than I could in person. Because you can obviously go back and rewind it, but we can get you all the camera angles and stuff that you're not going to see standing on a fire line with 20 other folks. Whether you're nervous to ask a question or you're just too far away and you couldn't really see it or it was a bad angle, by doing it online, you're going to be able to get it. We're going to be able to equip a lot more people to be competent shooters, people who can produce consistently and on demand. And we're building well rounded, educated folks that don't just, yeah, they know how to shoot at a very, very high level and all that kind of good stuff. But not only that, they know how to avoid all those things. And that kind of stuff is extremely important. So that's where you can find us. If you are interested in Right to Bear, I highly recommend that you go and do your due diligence, compare them to everyone. Right to Bear will come out on top. I'm very, very confident in that. Make sure you use code Provectus so you can save even more money on your membership every single month. It is a membership and not insurance, and it's a big, big deal. Really big deal. That's it, man.
All right, everybody. Look, if you like what we were talking about, kicking it about, please hit that like and subscribe button right there at the bottom, so I can catch that algorithm. And please, like I said, man, go like and subscribe to everything Provectus Group got going on. He a good dude. Everything. Please do, cause like I said, I've been watching for a while, man, and like I said, everything's been amazing. I'm glad he back here. I appreciate him
Back,
coming on the show. Like I said,
yeah. Thank you
I
for having us.
appreciate you
This is
coming on the
incredible.
show, man. Like I said, because you
Yeah,
don't know
man.
how people gonna respond or act or guess, but you always been
Yeah, yeah.
a stand up one, stand up 10 toes down type of dude, man. And like I said,
Right, man.
I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it.
And let me know when all this airs, man. We'd love to share this everywhere, man. Like, you have no idea how appreciative I am of this, man. Especially for it being our first one in years, man. Like, I couldn't have been in a better place. It's exactly where I want to be, man. So, thank you so much. And we'd love to come back on anytime, man. Talk about anything. We down. Whole
Right. So
flats.
look, pop culture out. We out here in the ready room. Peace.